Hello there. I am trying to put together a message in terms of this chaotic world that we are witnessing. Too many things have been happening, and I was praying, asking, Lord, what would you want me to say? And I opened up the Bible to Isaiah chapter 6, verse 8. And it says, "Also I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send? And who will go for us? Then I said, Here am I, send me. And he said, the Lord, Go and tell these people, keep on hearing, but do not understand. Keep on seeing, but do not perceive." He also gave me the thought of another passage. In Micah chapter 6, verse 8, and the Lord basically asked, "What is it that I have done to you? What evil have I committed against you, that you have walked away from me, that you have abandoned my ways?" And he says, He has shown you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justly, to act, to conduct yourself in justice, to execute justice, to love mercy, not just to like, to have a positive view of mercy, but to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. I was reading a little bit of this book, A Testament of Hope, written by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And here I found this passage. I'm going to read it to you. Think in terms of the current world situation with the economic crisis, with all the lockdowns, economic lockdowns. The countries shut down airports for many months. Airlines were not flying. People were not traveling from one country to another. There was a disruption of the normal life that we were living, economic, social, political life, health-wise as well. And suddenly we were impacted about over a year and a half by this new disease. And the world is probably thinking, is life going to be better from now on? A lot of people are concerned, you know. A lot of countries are suffering economically. Millions and millions and tens of millions of people all over the world are facing horrible situations. From the different situations, from the different events that have taken place, the wars in the Middle East, in all those countries, in Libya, Syria, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Yemen. We have seen all the earthquakes, volcano eruptions, and fires, infernos in Brazil, in those beautiful forests, California, and fires and destruction, devastation, and a lot of people are wondering, are things going to get better? Can we hope for better times? Or are things going to retrogress instead of progressing? Are we going backwards instead of evolving or progressing for the better? There's a lot of chaos everywhere. A lot of people hurting. A lot of people suffering. Poverty, misery, massive migrations taking place from the Middle East and Africa to Europe, for the US, from Central America, from Mexico. We have not seen what is happening lately in the past. Yet, we remember those, when we read the bubonic plague that killed millions and tens of millions of people, we remember that there was a First World War. The First World War. Millions died during the First World War. And then we had the Second World War. Tens of millions of people died. And when those wars were taking place in so many countries at the same time, people must have wondered, is this the end of the world as we know it? Is this the Armageddon? Is this the tribulation that is predicted in the Bible? I believe that we have been going through a lot of tribulations and Armageddons throughout history. We have seen, it's not the first time we have seen wars take place. We have seen devastation in the past. But there is one factor that concerns me the most, and it is the lack of love, the lack of sensitivity. We see a lot of indifference, and we see that good, what is good according to moral and ethical standards and what the Bible taught us good, is now bad. And yet what is bad is now called good. And we see all these growing tensions all over the world. Are things going to change? Can we expect something good come out of all this turmoil and havoc and crisis and death? He says here, Dr. Martin Luther King, some would argue that we are retrogressing. Remember that this book is like 30, 40 years old. They would argue that we are retrogressing instead of progressing. He said at that time, but far from representing retrogression and tragic meaninglessness, the present tensions represent the necessary pains that accompany the birth of anything new. God is a God of, of epochs, of times, of seasons. That's why there were many feasts that were celebrated in the Old Testament, customary feasts that represented something spiritual for God and for the people of Israel. Definitely, a lot of people are asking if we're retrogressing and not progressing. Now we are going to read another passage here. It says that in the past, in the midst of a lot of terrible things taking place, at that time it was, slavery and racism. Now that is being revived. That which was being overcome, prejudice, racism, slavery was overcome. We have progressed a lot to the point that people in the black community now could vote. They could become professional artists. They could run for Congress, for the Senate, and win. We had an African-American president, and we have had very prominent people from the African-American community in positions of power. And that has happened in many countries as well. So there was a lot of progression, but now, within the last few years, there has been an incitement. There have been inciting, trying to promote a new retrogression, going back to calling it prejudice and racism and all kinds of things. Of course, peace should not be at any cost. For true peace to take place, justice, mercy are important. Freedom to walk humbly with your God. True peace is not merely the absence of some negative force, tension, confusion, or war. Peace is the presence of some positive force, justice, goodwill, and brotherhood. This is what Dr. Martin Luther King said. I'm trying to read basically some of his writings. I have done it in the past as well for many years. And this is what he concludes. He says, first, we are challenged to rise above the narrow confines of our individualistic concerns. We need to leave the comfort zone of what is mine, my comfort, my privilege, my benefit, my rights, and we need to move to the broader concerns of all humanity. We need to stop being so individualistic, less indifferent to the world situation, to the world scenario, and confusion and pain and misery. We need to rise up above the narrow confines of our individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity. The new world is a world of geographical togetherness. This means that no individual or nation can live alone. There is a lot of interdependence. We must all learn to live together, or we will be forced to die together. This is what is happening right now. We're being divided. All those wars that took place to incite hatred, and a lot of propaganda that promotes that we are fighting against each other, one race against the other, one nation against the other. And somehow we have been driven by a force, by a system that I call it evil system, that is causing us all to fight, to accuse the other as being at fault, to blame, finger pointing. And the most powerful ones, the wealthiest ones in this world are hiding. We see a lot of politicians and people that run big organizations that are international, and yet they're supposed to have master's degrees, PhDs, doctoral degrees. All these are called experts. Experts in politics, economics, health, medicine, technology, and all nations are represented in these organizations, and they're supposed to exist to help us, to help the world to overcome turmoil, poverty, misery, to overcome racial tensions, to overcome medical problems and health issues. We're supposed to be a world in harmony because we elected. Who knows who elected them? I don't remember electing a lot of people in my life. And I'm sure many of you know that many people are there because they were put there. Somehow they got there, and yes, they got all this educational background, master degrees and doctoral degrees, PhDs, but yet the world is in havoc. The world is full of confusion. What are they doing to solve the problems? I don't see them really solving the problems. I see them as creating more problems. Do they really mean to solve the problems? Are we, as the world community of nations, the normal people like you and me, who go to work every day, who have families and who have responsibilities, daily responsibilities, and are not in politics or running the countries or Congress or the Senate, or we're not the president, are we letting them do everything for us? thinking that they mean our best interest, thinking that they will do the best for us. That is what has happened. Corruption, greed, abuse of power, and this evil system that has been created. And yet we have let them get away with it. We, the Church of Christ, the one that has power from above, mighty power, access to God's mighty power. We who are called the light, the church, and that the gates of hell, of evil, of corruption and injustice would not prevail against the power of the church, and yet the world is full of hate, of turmoil, of injustice and corruption. The world is full of darkness, and yet we are called the light of the world. How is it that we are bringing light to the world and casting away darkness, fear, injustice? In what way? I am not the most competent person to deliver this message. I feel that I'm just a common person trying to do something about it, trying to be a solution to all the problems. I cannot solve them, but I'm trying to be a voice crying out in the wilderness, make straight the path of the Lord. Love justice, act justly, execute justice, love mercy, and walk humbly before your God. Love. Love. Are we exercising love? Once we find out what our calling is, we know that we were born for a purpose, for a reason in this life. We're not just bystanders, you know. We're not accidents. We're not alive by accident. We were born for a purpose, for a reason, for a calling. To be light in the world. To walk humbly before the Lord. To act justly and to love mercy. But those are not just terms that we speak, that we preach about, but we live, that we exert, that we execute them through acts of kindness, through acts of justice.